Hello and welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast. I'm your host, Savannah Madden, acting coach, award-winning theatre school owner and business coach for performing arts professionals, tutors and small business owners who want to grow their businesses with confidence, resilience and to step into their CEO mindset without burning out. Today, I'm joined by someone who has made it her mission to take the stress and confusion out of finances for people in the performing arts world, accountant and business owner Sam Cantrell. Sam runs Penny Accountancy Services and Accounting for the Arts, two businesses that specialise in helping creative entrepreneurs, theatre school owners and performing arts organisations get to grips with their accounts, taxes and business systems. What I love about Sam's work is that she completely understands the creative mindset. She knows that most of us didn't go into this industry to become experts in spreadsheets and tax returns, but she also believes that understanding our numbers is one of the most empowering things we can do as business owners. She's built an incredible community through her Facebook group, Accounting for the Arts, where she offers practical advice and support in a way that's clear, friendly, and actually makes sense. Today, we're talking all things bookkeeping, VAT, and the upcoming changes to making tax digital, but also about the mindset behind running a financially healthy, sustainable creative business. Sam Cantrell, welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. So I always say I like to start at the beginnings. Where did Accounting for the Arts come from? How did it all begin? Tell us more.
So it actually begun during COVID times. So that's where it all stemmed from. Obviously, when everyone was looking for information to do with like the grants that were available and things like that. So I actually hadn't thought about doing anything along the lines of like niching down into performing arts at that point. But I had a business coach at the time and he basically said to me, what were my hobbies? And obviously dancing was one of my hobbies because I've got my own school as well. And then he was like, well, why don't you go down into this avenue and help kind of everyone in the performing arts world? And then it's just kind of stemmed from there really. So I started the group in COVID, gave people loads of information at that point, and I think it was really helpful for people during that time because there was a lot going on.
There was quite a few grey areas as well, weren't there?
Everything there is, yeah, everything to do with HMRC is like that. But yeah, and then it's just kind of grown from there really, and now I just enjoy helping people with, especially people in the performing arts world as well, because exactly like what you said earlier, we kind of don't go into it with that financial brain. We go into it for the love of teaching, and it's just nice helping people with that side of things. I know it's still very overwhelming, but if I can just help like a few people out there, obviously that makes a massive difference. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Yes. So you also run a company called Penny Accountancy Services. So how do the two businesses fit together?
So the Accounting for the Arts side of things is basically like a sister company to Penny. So Penny was my original business. That's my like original accounting firm. So that's the one that I've kind of built from absolutely nothing. And then Accounting for the Arts has kind of come in like 3 or 4 years into that. So Accounting for the Arts just kind of runs alongside it, but they do fit in together. But Accounting for the Arts is like the performing arts branch of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest challenges for theatre school owners is tax returns and managing their budgets and finances. Has that been a challenge to educate industry professionals around how to pay their tax, around how to keep their accounts running smoothly?
I think so, yeah. I think that's a massive part to it. Again, it's a part that we don't really think about a lot, and I think a lot of the time we kind of put that bit to one side, and I get a lot of sole traders that come to you kind of at the end of January and they're like, I haven't done my tax return. So a lot of people in this industry are exactly the same. So if you feel like you're alone, you really are not, because a lot of people are like that. But it's because, again, like they just stick it to the back of their mind and they're like, I'll do it when I have to do it, rather than thinking to themselves, I'm going to be organised and kind of know what my tax is going to be like 9 months beforehand. So it's changing that mindset, I think, and just knowing that it is scary, kind of knowing how much you owe HMRC. But if you think about it and you've got lots of time to then maybe put money together or save money or that sort of stuff, it just makes a massive difference if you're just a little bit more organised with it. So yeah.
You deal with lots of deadline dancers, don't you?
Yes,
I know.
yeah.
I mean,
I've tried to get people to not be like that now. So I kind of like, in the nicest way possible, I try and train my clients as much as I can so we
yes.
don't have that January rush. So yeah, we try and do that as much as we possibly can here.
What is it like? I've always wanted to ask an accountant this, but I've never had the guts. So now is my chance.
Now is the time.
Now's the time. What is January like for you?
It can be horrendous. And so I have had it probably in like previous places I've worked where it has been really bad, but I feel like I organise my business well enough so that we don't have to rush as much. Obviously, you have there's clients here and there that will send you their stuff in January now, but it's not as bad as it used to be. So I think we're actually pretty good here, but I have worked in places before where it is horrible.
I just always have felt so sorry for accountants,
Yeah,
especially in the olden days when I probably was not quite so organised with my accounts as well, and just thought, gosh, this must be so stressful. You just had a lovely Christmas
yeah,
and whatever,
yeah.
and then you come into January and everyone's going, oh my gosh, I haven't
I
got my
know.
tax return.
Straight back into it.
So I think there definitely is some sort of correlation between being a creative and not necessarily being quite so account savvy. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that for everybody because, of course, that just wouldn't be true. But do you think that the creative people do tend to approach their money differently from people that work in other industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. But again, I think it's just for that pure love of what you do. So we'd prefer to spend time like choreographing dances or doing things like that rather than sitting down and like typing out our accounts sort of thing. So I think it's just that mindset of, and I do think it's hard actually because I kind of do have the two sides to the brain. So I have my creative side and then
Definitely.
I've got the boring side. So I do get it from both sides because I have that thing where like I can't sit still and I can't do stuff for more than like 5 minutes. But when it comes to my accounts work, I can actually like zone in usually. But I definitely think it's harder for creatives to actually sit down and do boring stuff, I'm going to call it.
Boring stuff. But I think, though, that's what makes you so good at what you do, Sam, though, is because you have got that creative side to your brain. So you've got that empathy for your clients and for people in your Facebook group, because I know that you've grown your Facebook group to quite a big amount of members. And
Yeah.
obviously, they're not all your clients.
No.
So whenever anybody is asking a question in that group, because I'm obviously a member, I'm always like, just ask Sam, she'll understand, because
Yeah.
everyone is so worried, and I've definitely been there. Everyone is so worried about sounding silly or asking a silly question, and you
Yeah.
always say there aren't any silly questions, just
No.
ask away. And I remember when I first spoke to you, I said, I've got a few queries for you. And you said, it'll be nothing that I've not heard before.
Yeah.
And that made me just feel so much better and so much more confident. And you put me
Yeah.
at ease straight away. And I think that that's like obviously one of your superpowers in your industry. But let's get a little bit more practical now. What are like some of the most common mistakes that you see performing arts businesses make when it comes to their accounts, or things that could be easily avoided if they had a bit more education around it?
I wouldn't say mistakes as such. I think the one thing that springs to mind more than anything is that people leave their accounts for like a long period of time. I always have this thing about like you guys knowing your numbers, and a lot of people don't know their numbers. A lot of people don't know how much they turn over. They don't know what their profits are, and it's because they leave their accounts for or some people just do it on like a yearly basis and that's it. So I think that's one of the biggest things for me is that if you know what your numbers are in your business, you can then grow your business, or you can do what you can kind of do whatever you want with your business from that point. If you know what your numbers are, it's from that point as well that you're going to know what your taxes are and things like that. It's kind of, I want to call it a bit of a superpower to know what your numbers are, because a lot of people don't. So yeah, there's not mistakes as such that I see, but it's definitely things like that I think would be really helpful for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do it.
And as we've already mentioned, do you think that is just partly because most of your clients in this industry have got such a creative brain? There's that part of it, and then is it that they just don't have the understanding So they just go, oh, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to leave it. It's that bit of
Yeah.
sort of like avoidance and procrastination around it.
Yeah, and I think some people think it's a lot more hard work than it is. I know we're going to come on to the whole making tax digital side of things, but I just want to touch on that because I've taken quite a few people now to accounting software, and I don't think they realised how easy it was going to be to do their accounts like that compared to how they've previously been doing it, where they've been doing like spreadsheets, and like I love spreadsheets, but the way that accounting software is now, it makes it so much easier. So I think people think it's going to be hard work and it's going to take a lot of time, but if you're on top of it and if you're using accounting software, it's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you educated me on how to swap from one to another, and I'm so much happier with the provider I'm with now because it's so easy.
Yeah.
You just
And that's what we
click a
wanted to
few
do,
buttons. So we just touched on it, so let's keep going with making tax digital. It's coming into force next year. So as business owners, what do we all need to know, and what should people be doing now to get ready?
So the main thing is if your turnover is over 50,000, you're going to have to be on software from the 6th of April 2026. Okay, so it's based on turnover. A lot of people are saying that it's based on profit, and it's not. It's your turnover of your business. So it's that's your total sales income, basically. So if that is equal to £50,000 or above, then you're going to have to go onto accounting software from the 6th of April 2026. It then goes down the year after to like 30,000 and 20,000. So eventually it's going to mean that a massive bulk of people are going to go onto accounting software. So I think the thing to do at the moment, so again, this is something that I'm doing with quite a few people in the group, is just getting you guys onto some form of accounting software, and then having a bit of like a practice run before everyone starts properly on the 6th of April 2026. So we've got people onto accounting software. They've started using it. They're going to start getting used to it. You're going to know kind of what you have to do on there. And then that means from the 6th of April, you should be flying and you'll know exactly what you're doing and what you have to do. We're kind of using this bit as a bit of a practice run. And then from there, everyone should hopefully be okay.
Yes. And would you recommend that if you're a business owner at the moment whose revenue isn't £50,000 or over, would you still recommend you just get sorted now? Because they're obviously going to keep bringing, as you mentioned, they're going to bring it down to 30, then they're going to bring it down to 20. So it's going to apply to you anyway at some point. So would you just say, just bite the bullet and just get on with it now, just so that you're so ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I think doing that anyway, like I said earlier, I think if you have that accounting software, that can actually make your business grow anyway. So if you're at the point where you might have a smaller school, but you're looking to grow it, that's where if you go onto some form of accounting software, you'll be able to see like what your turnover is, what all your expenses are, like where you can save money and things like that. So I think even if you're not at that £50,000, having that accounting software, I think I said it earlier, it's a game changer for you because you'll just know your numbers inside out, and that's one of the most important things to get right from the beginning.
Exactly. And you can filter your searches and you can press a button to see what your profit and loss is.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine how you do that in a spreadsheet.
No. You can, but there's like formulas everywhere.
I bet you can, but this girl does not know how to do that one. But yeah, I'm sure plenty of people do know how to do it. But yes, exactly. And we've talked a lot about accountancy software and everything. So are there any tools or systems that you recommend that you just think that are like the best ones to use to help performing arts schools stay compliant?
So my favourite software is Xero, and that is for the pure reason that it's very easy to use for people that aren't accountancy minded. So it's very like nicely laid out. It's just very user friendly. So that would be the one that I would say to go in and have a look at. They've also just bought a package out which was like £7 a month. So it's not like bank breaking money, if that makes sense.
No, it's really affordable.
Yeah, it's good. There's a few other ones out there as well. I know that there's ones like a free agent, so that's linked to NatWest. I think if you're with NatWest Bank, you can get free agent for free. So some of the banks are doing things like that. So maybe have a look and see kind of who your bank works with. Trying to think what other ones there are. There's ones like Sage. It all depends on the size of your business as well. So some of them are really good, like if you're a smaller business. But if you're kind of heading towards being a slightly bigger school, then definitely I would recommend having a look at Xero.
Excellent. Thank you. And we're going to move on now to talk about VAT and being VAT registered, VAT. Obviously, it is not applicable to lots and lots of businesses because of the threshold, but people can creep up towards that threshold quite quickly,
Yeah.
and it can literally creep up on you. So it's a bit of a mystery, I would say, to a lot of theatre schools, because I imagine they've not really had to kind of come into contact with it very much. So can you explain it to us in simple terms what people need to know about VAT, when it would be the time for them to register, and what they would need to know before registering?
So I wish I could use the word simple for this, but I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's not, is it? No.
But I'll kind of break it down as much as I can do. So when you're a sole trader or a partnership, we have something in place called the private tuition exemption, which basically means that any classes that you teach yourself are VAT exempt. The actual VAT threshold at the moment is 90,000. I do have a feeling that that's going to go down when we have the budget in November, but I'm just just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. You heard it here first, everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just got a bad feeling about it. I'm keeping positive that it's not going to happen, but I have a feeling that it might. So anyway, at the moment it's 90,000. So when a lot of people hit that amount as a sole trader or a partnership, they think that they have to go VAT registered. However, because we have this private tuition exemption, any classes that you are teaching yourself don't count towards that threshold. So usually as a sole trader, you probably are teaching more classes than your teachers are. So when it comes around to that, you just need to work out what you teach and what your teachers teach, and then see if what your teachers teach adds up to 90,000. And then if that does, that's when you've got to go VAT registered. So that's kind of a very kind of simple way of describing that. I feel like there's a lot more to it, but I'll keep it at that. And then when it comes to limited companies, if you're limited, there's no exemptions. So if you have a school and it reaches that 90,000, you're going to have to go VAT registered straight away. So the structure for schools is really important. There are ways we can get around things like that. There are like LLPs and stuff, which again, I could probably talk about all day, but we won't go down that route. But yeah, there are things that we can do basically to bring the businesses underneath that limit. Some people hit that limit and they will just go VAT registered, and because their companies are growing so much, there's no point in splitting things out. I think if you get to a point where you're at that 90,000, that is when, if you haven't got an accountant, to go to your accountant and just have a chat with them about it and see kind of what can be done, because there are ways that we can get around it. And I don't want to say the word loopholes, but there's things that we can do basically.
Yes, absolutely. And how can you explain for us as well, for people that aren't quite aware of, how does that apply in our world? So if we are reaching that 90k threshold, we're registering for VAT, do we have to add VAT, for example, to all of our prices? Is there anything that's exempt, because it's maybe not like an actual class, maybe like uniform or tickets for a show or something like that? How else does it apply to us?
So what we usually do, because there's two schemes basically for VAT. Well, there's more schemes than that, but there's two schemes that we would use in relation to performing arts schools. One of them is a standard rated scheme and the other one is a flat rate scheme. Now, because most of the time we have quite a lot of expenses that don't have VAT on them, it's actually better to go down the flat rate scheme side of things, where we would only have to put on 12.5%, because that's what the flat rate VAT is for performing arts schools. So you would get to that 90,000, you'd register for VAT, you would then have to add 12.5% onto your fees. and then you would pay that over to HMRC once a quarter. I would also say that the very important thing about VAT is that you are just holding that money on behalf of HMRC. So what a lot of people try to do, and this is where a lot of businesses will go under, is they'll try to absorb that cost because they don't want to put their prices up. So the really important thing is that you have to put that 12.5% on, because you are just holding that on behalf of HMRC, and then obviously you're sending it over to them. I've taken quite a few schools through VAT registration now, and we've got like a little step of what we send the parents, and so that they know that they're VAT registered and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where obviously it's all business related. I know as creatives sometimes we don't see it as a business, and we see what we're doing as a hobby and because we love it, but we have to see that side of things as being like business. And we always say, if people leave because the price is too high, you will replace them with people that will pay the higher price. So that will happen. So it is scary, but once we've kind of been through the process and we've done everything and everything's been set up and the clients like start paying their VAT over, we actually get to a point where we're like, oh, okay, it's not that bad.
I am so pleased you said that, because my first point is I definitely saw someone put in a Facebook group, not yours, but a different Facebook group. I think it was just a performing arts one in general, about how they were absorbing their VAT costs. And so many people flooded onto that post and were like, no, you can't. You've got to add it on. You know, your business just won't, like, it probably won't survive, you know, in all the nicest ways possible. And also about how performing arts professionals have to treat their businesses like businesses. They're not, obviously they are passion projects, but you put your passion into the teaching, the coaching, the working with your young people, the passion into your communication with all your parents and the shows and all of that. And then you just got to whack that different hat on. I talk about hats on this podcast all the time, about how we're all wearing different ones. Oh, I'll put my marketing one on now. Now put my accounts one on now. Principal hat, yes. And you've just got to treat it like a business. And I think that's why, because I think theatre schools could be so profitable. People could be making some seriously good profit here. And providing excellent coaching and excellent standards for all our young people. But there are just people that I don't think quite have the confidence to raise their prices. And I also loved what you said about if people leave because it's too expensive, like that's really unfortunate. And of course, we want to try and make everything as accessible as we can for everyone. But there will be another person waiting in line to take that spot, and they will be able to pay that price, you know. So we have to remember that. And I think that's what would really help a lot of theatre school owners to appreciate that that's how their businesses will grow even more. So do you think HMRC and the accounting world fully understand how performing arts businesses operate? Or are we still a bit of an anomaly?
To be fair, I don't think HMRC understands how anyone operates, really. HMRC are a law unto themselves. But I don't know. Obviously, there was a court case a couple of months ago involving a few dance schools and performing arts schools that went through, and even just reading like the correspondence for that, it seemed as if HMRC weren't understanding of the like industry that we're in. So I think it's still I think they're very old school. They obviously have their old school set ways, and we're in kind of quite a new modern like sort of industry, really. And I don't think they get us at all, if I'm honest.
Still got a long way to go, haven't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
And what would you say, Sam, for why it's so important that people in the arts get specialist financial support?
I think the thing with that is that, again, I've probably said this quite a lot, we are in a very niche sort of industry, and we kind of only, like, we get it. We get everything that we have to go through. We know that there's so many different income streams and things like that. And I think if you have like accountants and things like that don't have that knowledge, I think they struggle to understand how we work, what what kind of work you actually need on your accounts and on your bookkeeping and things like that. And then especially I get this a lot where people come to me in relation to the VAT side of things, because obviously that is a really like huge area, and they say my accountant doesn't understand this industry, can you help me, sort of thing. And then most of the time I will like put all the information together and then they send it over to their accountants, and then their accountants are happy. But that happens a lot. So, and I do get that obviously an accountant is never going to know absolutely everything. Like I probably don't know everything there is to know about like the construction industry or things like that, but that's fair enough. So, but to have that person that knows your industry inside out, I think is going to be such a help.
Yeah, it's hugely reassuring.
Yeah.
And what is the one thing that you wish every theatre school or dance school owner or acting coach knew about bookkeeping or accounting? What do you wish that they know?
I just wish that they knew that it is a lot easier than they think it's going to be. So honestly, it just, as long as you're keeping on top of things and kind of what we said previously about getting accounting software and stuff like that, if you're set up from the beginning and you kind of know exactly what you're doing from the get-go, like as soon as you open your school and you kind of get onto those platforms more or less like straight away, then it is very easy to keep on top of things. And to be fair, once you've done that, there's not a lot more to it. So if you've got an accountant, obviously they're going to keep an eye on your books and things like that, and then they'll be able to get the data like at the end of the year. But if you're doing that processing and if you're putting things into the right codes and stuff like that, there's actually not a lot more to it. So as long as you're doing that, you should be all good. And it really is, I want to say it's that easy.
That's brilliant. I kind of touched on it earlier, but I want to just go into it in a little bit more detail. You've got your Facebook group, and I said earlier that you're very good at saying like there aren't any silly questions and just ask away. And you make it so accessible for people through this Facebook group and through your clients and everything. So
yeah.
What's your approach to helping people who feel scared or embarrassed about their finances, or how do you make people feel more comfortable?
So, I mean, a lot of the time it is kind of me just saying to people that kind of you're not the only one going through it, that probably most of the other people in that group and most of the other like performing arts community in the whole of the UK are probably going through exactly the same thing. So it's just kind of, it's that talking to people aspect, I think. So very recently I've done a lot of stuff on Xero in the group. There are people within the group that will send me messages rather than put things onto the group because they're kind of scared that they're going to get judged, and that would literally never happen, by the way. Would never judge anyone. I always kind of say that I would rather people ask questions, because then they're going to find out the answers, and then obviously they're going to get more confident as it goes. So it is just that thing of kind of maybe not speaking your mind as such, but just asking those questions, even if you feel like they're silly, because they're not. And everyone probably has the same questions on their mind. So yeah, recently I've done this Xero thing where we kind of did like a little group thing where we had a look through Xero together. But at the same time, I said, I know that there's people on this group that aren't going to want to be involved as a group sort of thing. So if you want to do like a one-to-one instead, we'll do it that way. And then I've had lots of one-to-ones with people, and we've gone through Xero together. And it's been at that point as well that people have said, oh, actually, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So it is just that confident side of things, I think, as well. And knowing that actually it's okay to ask questions. And I hope that within that group, I make it feel like it's okay to ask questions as well, because I just want to help people in the industry know that it's okay.
Yeah, lovely. I feel like what you just said might have been the answer to this, but there might be something a little bit more to it. But what are some of the most rewarding moments you've had helping either your clients or people who aren't your clients who are in the Facebook group?
It's just that helping people side of things that really does it for me. Again, I don't know if that's part of being like a teacher as well, and having that creative side and just being able to help people in their time of need sort of thing. But I've had it quite a few times where people have messaged me and they've had like, I want to say like an accounting emergency where their accounts might be due like the next day or something, and I come in and I'm like, it's fine, and then I kind of work my magic and it's all okay, and they're like, oh, you've been amazing. So it's times like that that really make it all not make it all worthwhile, because I find it all worthwhile, but it's those kind of times when people are kind of, I've had people come to me before and they're like crying, and I'm like, it'll be fine. I'm like, it's just your accounts, it's not that scary. But then we
Yeah,
kind of,
I think people think that they're going to, get in lots of trouble and stuff like
yeah,
that, aren't they? Because we've heard of court cases about things and,
yeah,
people getting fined for not filing their taxes properly. So I think it's probably quite a big fear for lots of
yeah,
people, isn't it? They're going to get into trouble. They're going to have to pay more money than their actual bill if they get things wrong and stuff like that.
yeah, absolutely.
But thinking of it as just your accounts is probably quite a good mindset shift
Yeah,
to have.
I do think people get those brown envelopes through the door and they like dread their life when they get those. But I actually don't think HMRC are that bad. Obviously HMRC like have rules and things like that. I think the worst thing with them at the moment is that obviously it's a struggle to get hold of them. So
Yes, I've heard that.
if you ever want to phone them or anything like that, you have to know that you're going to be on the phone for like anything from 20 minutes to like, I've been on the phone for 2 hours before. Obviously that's my job, so it's part of what I do. But so yeah, it can be a really long haul if you actually want to speak to them. But I do find that when you do speak to them, as long as you're like, if you do feel like you're in a bit of a predicament with something, but if you phone them and you kind of explain to them, they are usually actually pretty good, and they will help you do things like payment plans and stuff like that. So obviously at the end of the day, they do want their money, but if you can't afford it or anything like that, they will kind of help you out. So yeah, they're not as bad as what I think people think they are.
Yes. They're just humans at the end of the phone as
They
well,
are,
aren't they?
yeah.
So what's next for you or for Accounting for the Arts as we move into next year?
I don't know really. So I've been thinking a lot about the kind of the accounting for the arts side of things. And if I'm honest, it's something that the group's kind of got to a point where I like flit in and out of it. And I don't want it to kind of be like that. So I want it to be, I feel like it could be something so much more than what it is at the moment. So that's kind of on my hit list to kind of make a plan for it, and then just kind of see what happens. So I'm kind of at that stage with it at the moment. So yeah, it's all in the pipeline. I'm kind of one of those people, and again, this is probably the creative side of me, in that I never have made like a business plan or anything like that. So I don't know if this is bad for like a business podcast.
It's all right. I've never made a business plan in my life either. So
yeah, I've never done anything like, I've never sat down and thought this is going to be my path, and everything I've kind of done, I've fallen into, if that makes sense. So it's but yeah, again, I think it's just that side of the brain where it's just, I'm just one of those, we'll see what happens sort of thing. But yeah, with that group, I would like to take it somewhere, but where that is at the moment, I don't know.
So if you could give one piece of advice, just one, we've had lots of advice from you, but what would your one piece of advice be to a fellow creative or business owner who's feeling stuck or unsure about their finances right now? What would it be?
There's so many bits of advice I feel like I could give. I think the one thing that I really just want to put out there is for people to pay themselves. So this is a huge area in that people that are in our industry do not pay themselves. They don't factor in when they're doing their pricing or things like that they actually need to pay themselves a wage. A lot of the time I come across people that, I don't know, some people will pay themselves like maybe a couple of £100 a month, or some people will pay them nothing. And then you get the other end of the scale where the people that kind of have their businesses as businesses are paying themselves like the right amount of money. But it's kind of those smaller businesses that we want to know that they're making money for what they're doing. So I think my bit of advice would be to, when you're doing your pricing and things like that, make sure you're putting in money for you as well, because at the end of the day, it is your job and you do need to pay yourself.
What a great place to start wrapping things up, Sam. I love that. You have got to pay yourself, everybody, because you're working
Absolutely.
really hard in your business and on your business.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're all dying to know how we can connect with you and where we can follow you on social media, or how can people contact you, Sam, or be part of your world?
So we are on Facebook. You'll find, if you look for Accounting for the Arts on Facebook, you'll find us as a group. There's also a Instagram page that's the same name, and also a Facebook page that's the same name. So if you go onto any of those, so just search for Accounting for the Arts, and then we will show up, and then you can follow us on there. I have also got a YouTube page, which I think is also Accounting for the Arts, and that's one area that I want to work on, because I feel like there's so many videos I could put out there. I think if you search for Accounting for the Arts on YouTube and sign up for that as well, you'll find us on there, and then hopefully I'll start popping videos up on there too.
Brilliant. Well, I'll link all of that up in the show notes so that people can just click on all those links and be taken straight to your pages. Thank you
Perfect.
so much, Sam.
That's all right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Acting Coach Network podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure you're following. And if you've got a moment, I'd love you to leave a quick review or share this episode with someone else in the industry who might just need it. You can find me over on Instagram at the Acting Coach Network. And if you're looking for support to grow your coaching business or creative career with confidence, resilience, and without burning out, I'm offering 3-month one-to-one coaching packages where you can get to the bottom of what you most need help with in your business. You can also find my latest free resource in the show notes. I'll be back soon with more real conversations, expert insights, and tools to help you build a business you love. Until next time, keep going. Stay kind to yourself, and I'll see you soon.